Good morning, everyone. Hi, I'm going to tilt this down a little. Earthy Wise Woman here. It is a windy morning where I am. Very windy. We are in the middle of the Santa Anas, but it is beautiful, and the Lord and the Lady have blessed us once again with a gorgeous day. Today, I would like to speak to you about something that seems to be coming up a lot in, I'm going to take off my glasses here. It's been coming up a lot in my work. So a lot of people have been coming to my shop, not my physical brick and mortar store, but online and expressing that they have been hexed or they feel they have been hexed. And today I'm going to speak about what is a hex and how to unhex yourself. Okay. What is a hex? First, let's start there. A hex is energy directed towards someone of ill intent. So it's energy directed ill energy, bad energy directed towards someone for ill purposes. And it's pretty specific. Okay. And are there such things as hexes? Oh, yes, there is a such things as hexes. So, that being said, the problem I'm finding is a lot of people are feeling paranoid because every time something bad happens to them or something doesn't go the way they feel it should have gone, the first thing they go to is, oh my goodness, I've been hexed. Now, I'm not going to deny sometimes, yes, sometimes bad things happen that have been directed towards you from somebody else of the, ill intent has been sent your way. But I've got to be very honest, it's rather rare. It's rather rare. Now, one of the things I remember years ago, a very famous practitioner said, when you are dealing with magic, you have to remember magic can hurt. You can burn your hands with it, and therefore tread carefully. And when I say that is this, be careful who you hang around, okay? You can hang around practitioners who are, I call willy-nilly. And those are practitioners who basically will find a spell on Google and like, oh, we've got to do this spell. And they don't think about it, or they are driven totally by their passions. Instead of being driven by logic or think about things, they're driven by, I'm angry, I'm going to cast a spell. I want him to love me, I'm going to cast a spell. Instead of thinking, is this a good idea? Should I really be doing this? You know, because there is a thing called karma. Karma is not bad. I want to stress that because everybody says, well, you better watch out. Your karma's going to find you. Karma's not bad. Karma's not good. Karma is. And what that means is this. If you do good things and you put positive energy out into the world, good things will come towards you. If you put negativity and you do bad things towards others, bad things will come to you. That's karma. Simple as that. Now, how does that work with hexing? Let's say someone looks at you with ill intent and you've done nothing to this person. Absolutely nothing. And you know you've done nothing. And they try to put a hex on you. Well, here's the thing. Think of it like this. They may hex you with death, and that hex turns into a really bad cold. And why is that? Because you are a good person. You have done no ill towards that other person, and you've put no ill out into the world. But I'm going to tell you something. If you step in mud, and now I'm using all these metaphors, but what I mean by that is this. If you go around doing bad things towards others and someone hexes you, yeah, it's going to probably stick because of what you're doing. You're playing around in the same energy they are. So yeah, it's going to stick. whenever I have had people come to me and say, I have been hexed, I need you to lift the hex. Instead of me saying, okay, how much? I'll pay, you're going to pay me this much and I'll lift your hex. I don't do that. And I would strongly suggest you don't do that. The first thing you should ask a person, if they come to you and say to you, I have been hexed, is two things. One, why do you feel you've been hexed? And tell them, don't give you a general question. Well, things haven't just been working for me lately. Nope, that's a little general. Be specific. Why do you feel you've been hexed? And tell them to give you a specific answer. That's one thing. Number two, who hexed you? All right. And if they say, well, I really don't know, how are you going to unhex a person and send that energy back to where, well, you can do that. Yeah, you can send the energy back. Yeah, you can unhex them. But why is it important to know who hexed you? Well, we need to know what you did with that person to that person. Why do you feel it is that person? Because number one, when lifting a hex and sending energy back, I would tell anybody, don't specifically send it back to a certain person unless you absolutely, positively, without a single doubt, know that is the person who hexed you. Because if you don't know and you send that energy, that negative, nasty ass energy back towards that person, and it wasn't that person who hexed, well, you've just created some real problems, which is one of the reasons why I will tell anybody when you are unhexing, make certain that you say something, I send the energy back to where it came from. I know not where it came, but I send it back to whoever sent this energy towards me. I give it back to them. Do not be specific about a name. Do not. And I would strongly say, do not think about that person. Even, if you think it's that person, don't think about it when you're sending that energy back because you are a powerful being. And you don't even have to say the name, but the energy will go back to them because you're thinking about them. Think about the negative energy you want removed. And then before you even do an unhexing, think about your life. What have you been doing that might have drawn this energy towards you? Have you been less than honest with people? Have you taken something that did not belong to you? Have you been vicious or rude, jealous? What negativity have you been carrying yourself? Because believe it or not, negativity can activate a hex. There could have been a hex looming to hit you, and you've done absolutely nothing. And that's one of the reasons why the hex may not have ever been activated. But the one time you start doing ill intents towards other, ill intents will come to you because it's true. You get what you give. That's very true. So the one thing I can always say, people have said, well, you've never been hexed. Yes, I have. I have had people try to put hexes on me. And what do I usually do? Believe it or not, this is one of the ways I've had a hex put on me once. And basically the person, I guess it was more or less out of jealousy. It wasn't about a man. It was more or less like, well, you're doing more readings than I do, and I'm not making enough money, so I'm going to hex that all your customers come to me and you don't get a single customer. But now you have to remember one of the reasons why that hex didn't take is because number one, I don't do readings just for the money. Yes, I am paid when I do a reading, but I'm not going in there to get paid. I'm going into a reading to help somebody, to help them. Okay? Which is one of the reasons, excuse me. I can say you're going to pay me for a 30-minute reading, but if I feel you need 40 minutes worth of help, after 30 minutes, boom, I'll turn off the clock and we're going to talk. We're going to talk like I'm your mama and you are my child. Or I'm your sister and you are my sister or my brother. We're going to have a heart to heart because I feel that a reader, we're not in it for the money. We shouldn't be. We should be in it to help people and to better society. And if you make a person a more happier, productive person, you are truly helping society. And that is why I do psychic readings, to help people. That is the number one reason. Okay. And so if a person's going to try to take my customers from me, okay, you're basically just taking quote unquote people who wanted a surface reading who probably didn't really need my help, but just wanted, to see what it was like to get a reading. Okay. So what ended up happening? Um, in the end, I, believe it or not, I sent positive. I sent the hex back to wherever it came from. I didn't know where. How did I know I had been hexed? I felt it. Did I lose customers? Not really. Actually, I didn't lose any customers that really, in other words, I lost customers that honestly didn't really need my help, but was just curious about going to a psychic. They didn't really need my help. They were just curious. Okay, so basically, I just got rid of things that honestly, it didn't really matter because I was still there to help the people who needed my help. So that was good. And what happened to the other person? Honestly, I don't know. I know they went out of business. I don't like to consider a psychic reading as a business. That just sounds, uh, no. But the point being was this: her intentions were one, and my intentions were another. So her intentions to strike me in an area where I don't even view that as being one way or the other. I mean, if I go a week without doing a reading, okay, okay. Deity will provide and life is good. Okay. That's a good time for me to meditate. That's a good time for me to get into myself. And that is a good time for me to cleanse my space. But I don't think of it like that. So what am I trying to say? If you really don't want to be hexed, stay away from people who you know are vindictive, people you know are petty, people you know who tends to be jealous and passionate and do things without thinking. Stay away from those kind of people. Those are the kind of people who are quick to hex and slow to think about if this is a good idea. Very slow to think about it. And now I've got to tell you this. I'm not going to tell you to also be this willy-nilly, happy-go-lucky, life is pretty and we'll never hex anybody. That's not even realistic. In the world we live in, nothing is black and white. I like to say there's a lot of gray. And sometimes you will have to hex somebody. But before you do this, I'm going to strongly suggest, advise, let a person know to leave you alone to their faces, not a hex. Tell them, hey man, I don't appreciate what you're doing. Leave me the hell alone. And if they don't, just let them know, look, I'm not going to tell you again. The next time I have to tell you to leave me alone, I'm dropping down on your ass. Have I done this? Yes, I have. Just recently, a friend of mine, she sent me a text. Her boyfriend literally had ripped almost a 1 inch diameter plug of hair out of her head. He had been told about what and who I was. She had told him who and what I was. So I called him up. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I said, "Hi, how you doing? Hey, I didn't appreciate what you did, and I'm not going to say names. And I'm going to tell you again. I'm going to tell you. If you do anything to hurt her or harm her again, I'm going to hex you." Those were my little words. Now, I didn't lay a hex on him. I told him what I would do. And I was very clear about what I would do. I told him, leave her alone. You mess with her again, you will be hexed. And I said, if you don't want to be hexed, just stay away from her. And everything will be fine with you. Now, the thing about it is, his own paranoia will probably activate that hex. But did I mean what I said? I don't say what I don't mean. I don't threaten. what I'm not going to do. So what does that mean? Don't just say, I'm going to hex you if you mess with my man. You better think about it. That's a third party situation. Okay? Don't ever drop a hex because of a relationship. Don't do that. She stole my man. If your man was your man, he could not have been stolen. Okay? She put a spell on him to entice him to come to her. Now that is possible, sure. But at the end of the day, he will turn around and break that spell because it's a love spell. And love spells, unless a person is not in love with you, do not work. If a person is truly in love with you, those can ding on a relationship, but they generally can't break a relationship. It can put a little sawdust in it, but it can't just sever the total relationship. And usually when those kind of relationships get a little rocky, both people realize, wait a minute, something is wrong. And they themselves can sit down and say, well, what's going on? What happened? What's going on here? What do we need to do to fix this? And it can be fixed. But I would tell anybody, two things don't you ever do. Number one, don't hex somebody for somebody else. In other words, if somebody says, hey, I want you to hex blue blue for me, don't you dare do it because you're taking on that karma. And what if blue blue didn't do anything to them, but they just wanted them to be hexed? And so you stepped in and did it for them. You're setting yourself up for major problems. Don't do it. And another thing, before you decide to help, notice the word help, someone lift a curse, find out why they feel they have been cursed. And then ask them, what did you do to bring this on yourself? And if they say, oh, I didn't do anything, think again. They may have done something. Okay? Let's figure it out. Because the only way you can really, truly, completely lift a curse is to number one, find out why the curse was placed. And number two, who placed the curse? And those things are very important. Okay? Now, how do you avoid being cursed? Live a good life. Be honest. Don't do something to somebody you wouldn't want them to do to you. If somebody pisses you off, talk to them face to face. Let them know. Don't go behind their back and start doing some shit against them. Tell them to their face before you do anything behind their back. Live an honest life. You'll be surprised at how many times, number one, you will live a hex-free life, or two, if a hex does come to you, you will feel it and you can send it right back before any harm is really done. Oh, and by the way, when I do feel that someone has come up against me, that is some more, so I step up my giving. In other words, I will give to the poor more at that moment, or I'll give to a person who's in need. I will become more loving, more giving, more of the energy of deity, because that does repel a hex. So all of this, I sum up in almost 19 minutes. I'm going to suggest to you, if you really want to live a good life, live a good life. Be good to other people because hexes don't stick where there's nothing for it to stick to. And on that note, I wish you all a blessed Samhain because tomorrow on my calendar is Samhain. And blessed be to everybody. Stay safe.